So let's dive right in. If you take a quick look at the home improvement market right now, things look, well, they look tough. You've got high interest rates, a housing market that's kind of sluggish, and you'd probably expect a company like Lowe's to be feeling the pain. But their latest earnings report, it tells a surprisingly different story. It's a story of a company that's actually building a win against some pretty serious headwinds.
Okay, let's kick things off with the big headline number. For the fourth quarter, Lowe's managed to pull in a whopping $20.58 billion in revenue. Now, that wasn't just a solid number, it actually blew past Wall Street's expectations. A pretty strong start, right?
And hey, it wasn't just about the revenue. Their adjusted earnings per share, that landed at $1.98, another beat. So this immediately makes you wonder, in an economy where pretty much everyone is pulling back on those big, pricey projects, how on earth did Lowe's manage to pull this off?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. First, we'll look at their surprising performance. Then we'll get into the housing headwind they're sailing against. After that, we'll unpack their winning playbook, check out their cautious outlook for the future, and finally, wrap it all up with the big picture takeaway.
All right, first up, let's talk about just how surprising this performance really was. Even though the company itself admits they're in a challenging industry backdrop, the results were, frankly, pretty impressive.
You heard it right from the CEO, Marvin Ellison. He credits their total home strategy, which is basically designed to appeal to everybody, from their professional contractors all the way to the weekend DIY warriors. Let's see the numbers that really back that claim up.
And when you dig in, you can see this strength was pretty broad-based. Yeah, total sales were up, but the number that really matters to analysts is comparable sales. That's sales from stores that have been open for at least a year, and that grew by 1.3%. On top of that, they actually saw growth in 9 out of their 14 major product categories, so this wasn't just a fluke in the lumber aisle, you know?
But, and this is a big but, this success didn't just happen in a vacuum. To really fully appreciate what Lowe's just accomplished, we have to understand the massive obstacle they're up against. Let's call it the housing headwind. You know, the company has a very corporate term for it, the challenging housing macro. But really, you can just think of it as the villain in this story. It's this nasty mix of high mortgage rates, inflation that just won't quit, and general economic uncertainty that makes people think twice about spending big bucks on their homes. And a huge part of this macro villain is a concept you hear thrown around a lot lately, the housing lock-in effect. It's a key piece of the puzzle, but what does it actually mean for a retailer like Lowe's?
So here's the deal. Millions and millions of homeowners are sitting on mortgages with these crazy low interest rates. We're talking 3, maybe 4%. They are absolutely not eager to sell their house, only to have to buy a new one with a mortgage rate that's double that. So they're locked in. And the result? Fewer people are moving, which means way fewer of those big whole house renovation projects are happening.
Okay, so you've got this lock-in effect, you've got nervous consumers. So how in the world did Lowe's fight back? This is where we get into their strategy, which is honestly a masterclass in how to navigate a really tough market.
They've basically adopted this really simple but powerful two-pronged strategy. They're playing offense to find new ways to grow, while at the same time playing defense to protect their profits through being super efficient. And this really shows you the two sides of that coin perfectly. On the offensive side, they're going all in on their professional customers. And on defense, they are laser-focused on productivity, which, and this is interesting, includes investing in their own frontline associates to make every single dollar count.
So let's break down that offense first. They're going hard after professional contractors. That's a much more stable source of business than us regular DIYers. They're also pouring money into their online shopping experience and expanding their do-it-for-me home installation services for all of us who'd rather, well, not do it ourselves. And wow, is that online focus paying off or what? In just the fourth quarter, their online sales grew by a massive 10.5%. This is proof that their investment in a smooth digital experience is really connecting with shoppers. They even set new records on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Okay, so that's the offense. Now let's talk about the defense. The CEO uses this phrase, perpetual productivity improvement, or PPI. That's pretty much corporate speak for a relentless, never-ending drive to be more efficient, keep costs in check, and squeeze more value out of every single asset and employee they have. But this is where their defensive strategy gets really interesting. It's not just about slashing costs. At the same time that they reduced about 600 corporate positions, they turned around and awarded $125 million in discretionary bonuses to their frontline associates. That's a really calculated move. Trim the fat at corporate, but invest in the people who are actually on the floor interacting with customers every single day.
Now, after a quarter like that, you might expect them to come out with a super optimistic forecast, right? But that housing headwind we talked about, it is still blowing hard, and that's leading to a much more measured, cautious outlook for the year ahead.
So here's a look at their official guidance for the full year. They're projecting total sales to be somewhere between $92 and $94 billion. What's really notable, though, is their forecast for comparable sales, anywhere from flat to a modest 2% growth. What they're signaling is that even if the whole market shrinks, they are planning to grow their slice of the pie. Now, a huge piece of that sales forecast is actually coming from a couple of recent acquisitions. Lowe's just bought two companies, Foundation Building Materials, or FBM, and Artisan Design Group, ADG. Together, these two are expected to add about $8 billion to Lowe's total sales this year alone.
All right, so we've looked at the numbers, we've talked about the challenges, the strategy. Let's zoom out for a second. What's the big picture takeaway from Lowe's performance here?
When you boil it all down, the real takeaway is this. Lowe's isn't just sitting around waiting for the market to get better. They've built a specific playbook designed to win market share, even when the overall pie isn't getting any bigger. They're just focused on controlling the things they can actually control. And honestly, this final quote from the CEO just nails it. It's a statement of confidence, not in the economy, but in their strategy. The goal isn't just to survive a tough market, it's to actually thrive in it and come out the other side stronger than their competitors.
And all of this really leaves us with one final big question. Lowe's has this robust, really well-executed plan. They're targeting the pros, they're investing in their people, but at the end of the day, the home improvement world is driven by the homeowner. So the big question is, will their smart strategy be enough to overcome the hesitation of a really cautious consumer? That's the billion-dollar question for the year ahead.